NFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us red.
What's that you said coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you.
And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. And it's good evening to Steve, to Mitch, and to George, and to you. An hour and a half tonight, 90 minutes. Obviously, we've got an event tonight, so we have to get there. So that's the reason for a slightly shorter show. And good luck to Terry. He's in the QE tonight. He says, I'm in my penthouse suite in the QE hospital. I need this show to cheer me up. Well, I hope everything's okay, Terry.
Good luck, Terry.
Yeah, good luck, whatever it is that's happening. And I haven't listened to Eddie Howe's press conference today. I've been so busy. I've not had an opportunity to listen to it. So I'm not going to really be able to give you any updates on that tonight, unfortunately. But I can see by the chat that it hasn't exactly filled everybody with lots of joy. And I'm also conscious of the stuff that we've discussed on other shows, because people will come in with questions, go, what about this, what about that, where probably last week we probably talked in advance of what's already now starting to come out about relocation or expansion and stuff of the stadium. And John came in with the question, which I'm going to start with which I thought was great. And it's a good one, Steve. Which game is more important, Fulham or Arsenal?
Oh, yeah, mate. Thanks, John. That was really good of you. Throwing that one in right at the start. You know what? This is a really, really difficult question to answer, because we've got priorities in both competitions, and I mean, we all wanted to win a trophy. We know that. I mean, that's the big thing, and I think we've said for weeks now, you know, getting into another cup final and being in with a chance of bringing the first trophy home since 1969 or domestically since 1955 would be a fantastic thing. I suspect from a financial perspective, there are people sitting in that football club of ours who are saying Fulham's more important financially. We're on a charge for a top 4, top 5, top 6, or even top 7 place, which would potentially could bring it into the Champions League. Top 4 certainly, top 5 because of the coefficient, which we're now almost guaranteed from an England club's perspective to have that win, because there's only the Italians and the Spanish that can beat us. And even then, it's going to be some chase. So I think the top 5 is going to get into the Champions League, and I think that's what the powers that be are gambling on. To be perfectly honest, so if I was to be truthful, they were probably happy for us to have a day out like we did the last time. But I think their priority is the Champions League. My priority this weekend, 3 points, Champions League, move up. But we've got to get this monkey off our back. We've got to get the trophy behind us, because I think with the sort of football club once we did, I think that would raise so much and take so much pressure off, and would alleviate so many what we call them. I can't even think of a word to describe it other than problems that are in our head psychologically as supporters and as a football club. We get on the winning way, we win a trophy, it'll be fantastic. So, John, I'm gonna sit on the fence in terms of proper answer, because they're both important. But what I've laid out is what I think the club's priority is, and how from a fan's perspective, we just want to win, don't we?
Yeah. Mitch, what's your feelings? Which game is most important? Fulham tomorrow, Arsenal Wednesday.
I think our most important games are our next one. And I don't think it matters which competition that's in. And so I don't think you can prioritise it like that. And I think that's the way Eddie will have them thinking, is that the most important game is the next game that comes along. Doesn't matter what competition it's in. That's the one. That's the most important. And if we still have the attitude and had the mindset game at the time, what'll be will be, and that's where we shouldn't be looking further than that. We shouldn't be looking further than the next game, because that's how we should be from a mindset. Because if you do that, like I say, the rest will look after itself. I think what Steve says is very valid about two very different competitions and two very different reasons why you could put an argument for either game to be quote unquote more important. But I don't see that the way that our manager will think, and I don't see that it'll be the way that he's got the squad thinking. And nor should it be the way that we think. I think we just go on to the next game and treat each game the same, and keep that kind of mindset like that about positivity, in terms of, if we haven't proved to ourselves that we should fear no one but should respect everybody by now, then we're never going to learn. But that's the way it should be, is we fear no one but respect everyone. And I think absolutely 100% that's the mindset we should go into both games with.
George, it's an interesting week. Gibbo pointed it out, and I didn't really think of it this way, but league game, which is important for our Champions League attempt this year. Wednesday, of course, second leg of the semi-final against Arsenal, and then the following weekend, the next round of the FA Cup in Birmingham. And he was trying to go through his notebooks last night to work out whether we've ever played all three competitions in the same week. We will have done, I'm sure, but he was scrambling around trying to think of whether we'd ever done it. But it's an incredible week. But which game's the most important, George?
I'm absolutely Mr. Positivity. I want to win every Newcastle United game, and I don't care what competition it's in. And then everything looks after itself. Owners want to be number one. I think Neil's right, and they would. I think if they were asked to prioritise, they'd want to say we're in the top 4. Top 3 is not impossible if we keep playing the way we've been. But then there's the other side of me, having lived through the 50s when we FA Cup was almost our own, how great that was and how lovely it would be to have something like that again. But the opposite happened then in 52 and 55 when we won. Many people in the Gallagher corner think we actually threw the league away. We could have done the double, but the club actually prioritised the FA Cup because that's where the money was, and so they fielded weakened teams in the league instead of in the cup. Quite the reverse to what we do now. So my honest answer is I'm Mr. Optimistic. I want Newcastle United to win every game in every competition, and everything else looks after itself after that. And yeah, I mean that's the bottom line. From a personal point of view, yes, I want to upset Arsenal. There's been so much bloody whinging from them this last couple of weeks. I'm sick of the sight of Arsenal fans whinging on the television about Oliver and this and that and the other. I'd love to give them some more to whinge about, so that would be quite good. But the reality is that being a bleeding black and white, I want every game that we win every game, and I seriously mean that. And everything else looks after itself after that. But I understand what people are saying about it would be great to have a bit of silverware, and certainly would. But yeah, I want to win them all. I'm greedy little duck.
Yeah, for me, I would agree with you, lads. I mean, you know, the next game is the most important game, and of course, that is Fulham. We'll look ahead to that, of course, a little bit later in the show. But yeah, I get where the answer. People are asking is there a game more important? I don't think there is. We are still fighting on all fronts. The treble is still on, only just mind. But yeah, it's still an opportunity for Newcastle to get 3 points in the bag and cement their place in the European positions and open up a gap with the teams behind us, with other results hopefully going our way. So Fulham game is the most important game at this moment in time. You look ahead to Arsenal, as Eddie Howe does, when the time comes. Okay, first, go on, Steve.
Just going to say that you were talking about Gibbo and a bit of history there. This time back in 75, I remember 75-76 season.
Yeah.
This weekend we beat Coventry in the FA Cup 4th round.
Yep.
And a couple of weeks later, in the 5th round, this is typical Newcastle, by the way. We played Bolton in the 5th round and drew. We played them again on the 18th of February and drew after extra time in the replay. We then played them again and beat them in the second replay. Then we had to go to Wembley to play Man City and we got beat. That was 5 days later. We played them on the 23rd. 5 days later, on the 28th, we end up going and get beat. Then a week later, we get drawn. As we got through the 6th round, we go to Derby County. By then, the flu bug had arrived and we ended up getting beat 4-2 off Derby in the cup. And then our season just disintegrated after that. But that... Obviously, we didn't have any European football, but that was typical in those days. Newcastle United, where we shot ourselves in the foot with a draw, and then having to play a second replay, and then doing that just before we go to Wembley, losing Wembley, and then the following weekend with a flu bug, losing in the 6th round. When we anticipated we were going to get through that game against Derby in the 6th round and be in the semi-final again, because we'd had a good run in 74. Done really well in the League Cup to get to the final, but it's that sort of nearly man attitude that I think still pervades sometimes, probably among the fan base. I mean, not the players, certainly not the players, and not the management, because they're probably not even aware of that. It's us guys that know the history, and I think that's where we need to get that shaken out of us. And I think that they talk about a club, they talk about a big club, don't they? And they talk about big club mentality. And I hear people saying they've got a big squad. No, they haven't. They've got a better squad, a more experienced squad. But we've all got to name the 25-man squad at the start of the season. Yes, we can bring gifted youngsters in if we're desperate. But this is it's only a couple of weeks ago we were complaining saying players were tired. So this is the conundrum, and it's that big club mentality that has to start to come in to Newcastle United. And I think if we win something, that big club mentality suddenly appears.
Yeah.
And we're used to controversy, Newcastle United, with the cup and things were in. Remember the 1955 when we won the week before we went to the cup final, we sacked our bloody manager because he wouldn't play Jackie Milburn.
Yep, good points. Well made. Slightly shorter show tonight, but as you know, we have been asking people to send us in their first match. And it's a big thank you to Denise Applewhite, who is one of our moderators in the chat. She's took her time this week to send us her first game, and I will read it as follows. As requested, Steve, my first match. It was an away fan on the 24th of April, 1999 against Wimbledon Football Club. As a child, being a strict upbringing, I was not allowed to attend games, so my opportunity came as an adult. Due to work contract, I was living in Aldershot and drank in a pub called the Wheat Chief, where I made friends with an Aldershot lad called Punky Mark, who happened to be a Newcastle United fan. And much to my surprise, and I cannot remember the history of how he managed to support a tune. He also had a mate, I can't remember his name, who also supported Newcastle. There were so many Newcastle and other football fans down south in the 90s who had us as their second team. All being successful getting away tickets, we travelled by train from Aldershot to London. Wimbledon were sharing Selhurst Park with Palace back then. I wore my shirt loud and proud, and as soon as the lads seen me, they all followed suit. I wondered if we'd be the only ones, but the train was well represented with Toon fans all in their colours singing various chants. We all went to a pub close to the ground with loads of other Toon fans, and as this was my first match, I was in awe of how amazing it was to go to the match, let alone an away match. We drew 1-1, and the mighty Alan Shearer scored our goal, and John Hartson equalised for Wimbledon. Very sadly, Punky Mark died last year, and I was very sad when I received the news from my friends in Aldershot. Mark was only in his mid-50s. I'm so pleased I shared that Newcastle match with him. It was truly an amazing experience, though I had to wait until I moved back home in 2003 to get my season ticket. And of course, the rest is history. Thanks very much, Denise, a happy, proud member of the NUFC Matters team. Thank you for sharing that. And the team on the day was Shea Given, Nikos Dabizas, Didier Domi, Andy Griffin, David Beharrell, Nobby Solano, Dieter Hamann, Gary Speed, what a midfield, Solano, Hamann and Speed, Andreas Anderson up front, Silvio Maric and Alan Shearer. Dear me, it's no wonder Alan suffers with bad knees when he was having a carry and a bad back when he's carrying those two around up front in that period. On the bench, Steve Harper, Warren Barton, Aaron Hughes, Gary Brady and Jamie McClenn, who had a decent little career at Newcastle, did manage to get a few games under his belt in the first team. As for Wimbledon, Neil Sullivan was in goal, Duncan Jupp, Kenny Cunningham, Dean Blackwell, Marcus Gale, Ben Thatcher, Robbie Earle, Seri Hughes, Jason Ewell, Carl Court, who eventually played for Newcastle, John Hartson as well. And on the bench for them, Paul Heald, Alan Kimball, Gareth Ainsworth, Mark Kennedy and Carl Leeburn. So Peter Jones was the referee on that day, and no VAR. Good old days. But thanks for sharing that, Denise. Great stuff. If you have got your own story, please email it that kind of length as well. If you've got photos, if you've been there as well, please send them. nufcmatters1892@gmail.com is the place to send them, and we will read them out on the show. Got a nice little group of them already there. Big thanks to everybody who sent them in. Keep them coming. We'll feature them next week. And thank you to those who are sending in your membership numbers. The good news is me and Johnny Allen met for a coffee yesterday. I now have the magic book with everyone's number in. So I now know who are members and who aren't. There will be news made in due course about what we're going to be doing. Will involve the Patreon page, but we are going to be looking at some stuff. John's helped us out quite a bit this week. We've had a sit down. First time we've really had a sit down and a chat for a long, long time. So it's been great to catch up with him. He doesn't doesn't watch the shows live anymore, unfortunately, due to his trips to the hospital, but he does watch them on catch up. So hello, John. Good to see you, mate, and looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And just a reminder, in case I forget, the Chris Argyris's mum and dad and family will be coming to the Irish Centre tomorrow, 12:30. That's Chris on the far right, for those of you who aren't acquainted with the name. Chris sadly lost his life in 2021 as part of the COVID outbreak, and he was a great servant of NUFC Matters cause. He was often on the fans forum, and just somebody who was a bundle of laughs and had a lot of energy, and a lovely guy. Taken from us too soon, but his parents have asked that anybody who knew Chris or watched Chris on the shows, if you're in and around Newcastle tomorrow, pop into the Irish Centre. You'll probably have to pay £1 on the door to the doorman, but just go into the main bar. Chris's parents are there from 12:30, and it's a great opportunity for you to come in. They just want this as a little bit of a memorial to Chris. That's what they're trying to achieve tomorrow. So please come along and say hello to his parents, even if you're just popping in for 5 minutes. We know everyone's got a routine before the match, but it is nice to be able to do that if you can do that, please. Stephen Kennedy, good evening. He says, for the guys, the so-called accidental leak of photos and information regarding the ground true, or a clever bit of work from the club? There's nothing really new about it. Interesting to see that what we've been talking about on the show once again suddenly hits the news a week later, Steve. We were talking about potential sites and potential styles and what it could look like, and then lo and behold, a week later, journalists are now quoting almost verbatim what was said on this platform. I'm not saying for 1 minute that this is some kind of plagiarism. I'm just saying it's a big coincidence, Steve. But yeah, what's your views on the accidental leak of photos and information, Steve?
Well, it's like governments, isn't it? They have leaks before major announcements, and they're all planted by the government or by that particular government department well in advance, so that the press knows, so the press can whip up the fervor or the interest or whatever you want to call it. And I think this is very similar. I think we are being led down, as we've said all along, a path towards a new stadium. Some of the things that we've been reading are what we had always thought would be the way it would go. A new, up-to-date, modern stadium with huge wide concourses, a roof, a pitch that'll be like the Bernabeu, dropping in and being able to be changed at will. Wonderful car parking facilities that you'll not see. A full wrap around, with a similar style. It was mentioned one particular ground, and I think I don't know where they've got that idea from, but I think we'll be looking at something, because it's Newcastle United and because it's PIF. I think will be something more akin to the Bernabeu than we will to any other stadium. I think that's the benchmark now. The Tottenham Stadium looks fantastic, but aesthetically, from the outside, you can't beat the Bernabeu. We'll see what Barcelona produce when their new ground is opened. I'm expecting. I mean, we've talked about it at length over the last few months. The big conversation piece that's come out of it is, in Craig's Hope piece, it was mentioned 70,000. That caused the biggest debate, hasn't it? Because there's an argument there. 70,000 is too much. Another one that 70,000 is not enough. I was always a one that was advocating an 80,000 seater stadium, just to future proof. I think if it is 70,000, it will be 70,000 with the ability to add something to it at a later date if necessary. I think it'll be a ground that can be altered to suit, whether that's another tier going on top or whatever. But for me, it should be an 80,000 seater stadium. I did a little thing with you guys during the week, didn't I? Where we talked about Manchester United, and I'm sure we'll get onto that. But it wasn't anything to do with the fact that Man United are building the new ground, but it was more the fact that it was a 100,000-seater stadium, and what that could be worth to the football club. And I think just off the back of a tea cozy, almost, or whatever you want to call it, the calculations that I did was that Manchester United potentially could be bringing in £1.2 million a season from a 100,000-seater stadium. I based that on them having the same number of boxes as the Bernabeu, which is 245. I based that on 20 people in each box. I based it on each box costing 200 grand a season. I also calculated in that they could potentially do what has happened at Barcelona, where you have a section that is sold off at ridiculously high prices. You just look at the Bernabeu. There's tickets go at the Bernabeu for €999 per game, with all the hospitality that comes with it, and that's the sort of thing that Newcastle United could do. That would you could accommodate Manchester United could accommodate 5,000 seats for that, and still have 90,000, which is 15,000 more than they're currently getting. And when you start to stack those amounts up plus the TV money, I think that's a colossal amount of money. And then you look at other clubs like ourselves, and you think, will we still be lagging behind with a 70,000 seater stadium? The big argument, of course, is can we fill it? And I suppose that takes us back to the very first point that was made at the start of the show, which was if you start winning things, yes, we will start to fill the ground. And that's the big conundrum, isn't it? You get that winning mentality. You've got a winning mentality on the pitch, and you've got a winning mentality off the pitch. And with it, you've got the remarkable facilities. People will come to what's needed. I'm convinced of it. But Greg seems to think it's a 70,000 seater, and he's been briefed by someone in the club, obviously, to do that, to put it out there. And he's not the only one now. There are others, whether they're picking up from Craig or whether they're also being briefed. It'd be interesting to know. But I think the most sort of fundamental part of it is, when are they going to announce it? They've obviously got all the plans there. When are they going to announce it? We were a bit sarcastic yesterday in our little group, or at least I was, when Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, announced that the planning changes were going to be made for environmental reasons, and they were no longer going to stop planning for newts and frogs and things like that. And they did point out that that was never an issue now. It used to be an issue in the past that if you were going to build in Leazes Park, but it's not an issue now because all the frogs and newts are now being eaten by the rats anyway. So.
It was newts and bats last time, wasn't it?
Newts and bats. Now it's newts and rats.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting article. Thank you to one of my subscribers and one of our followers who has sent me it. Have now taken upon themselves, they will remain nameless, who's sending me the articles via Gmail, our Gmail account. But thank you for that. 70,000, Mitch. In that article as well, it suggests that we probably won't hear about this until maybe a lot later in the year. A lot of people were anticipating a fan advisory board followed by the announcement. Well, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case if Craig Hope's right.
And frankly, I've said this before. If you know what you're gonna do when you want to do, why don't you just get on with it? Stop softening everybody up for it. We don't need it anymore. I noticed one of the papers was getting quote-unquote fans' opinions, and yet one of them happened to be from the trust member who's on the FAB. I find it very, very interesting that it's almost like a sustained information campaign that's getting everybody's heads around potentially moving grounds. And as you can quite clearly see in our comments here, everybody's heads around it.
Yeah.
Everybody's heads around it. You don't need to get people's heads around it anymore. The only thing you then need to do is to show us that the local politicians that we have are able to do something coordinated with the club We don't have an Andy Burnham. We don't have a well-organised superstar, well-connected local politician who can get everybody organised and get the government behind the project and things like that and the other. That's still the only thing that this Man United situation has shown me is how better off they are with well-connected and well-organised politicians in the Northwest compared to the Northeast. But the bottom line for me is if you know what you want to do, let's just get on with it. It's going to be the thick end. Because somebody just had in the comments there before, if the training ground's going to be 5 years, the ground's going to be even longer. I've talked to people out here. There's people in our chat right now who have worked on bigger projects than the new ground for Newcastle United in this region. And they'll tell you how long it will take before even the first spade cuts the first bit of turf. And it's going to be a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
So that's why there's no rush to announce it. Because at this stage, 6 months is neither here nor there. It's not really going to significantly change the timeline too much. So, you're looking, even if everybody gets a wiggle on 6 years before we'll even see anything of substance, in my opinion. And talking about numbers again, I still find it very interesting to see what's happened in Italy, where they went with big stadia.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they throttled back from that again.
Yeah.
Clubs are moving to slightly smaller grounds when they're rebuilding, like Juventus, like the two Milan clubs, and so when you get to what happened with them, when they've got an 80,000 ground and only 40,000 turn up for an Italian cup tie, it looks half empty because it is. Yeah, there's still 40,000 people there. It's not like Sunderland's situation where they're claiming there's they claim a crowd of 30,000 and there's patently only 12,000 there. But we don't want to look like that's not a good look. People talking about wanting to get more people in and where's the fans that left under Ashley gone, etc., etc. They're all not going to come back. History tells us that doesn't happen that way. And the club's priorities, you don't want to pay on people's parade, but the club's priority quite clearly in the way that they're lining everything up with St James's is corporate dollar. The corporate dollar is king.
Yeah.
That's where the income's going to come from in any new ground. And so that's going to be the priority, is getting more corporate, getting more. Our waiting list for boxes is apparently phenomenal at the moment. Our corporate waiting list is huge, bigger than the non-corporate, I would imagine, in terms of percentage. And so that's where a lot of the priority is going to be, is how do we increase the corporate dollar. And yes, more tickets are being made available on match day. And I would hope by the time a new ground's open, they've sorted that bloody ability to sort those tickets out and allocate them properly and appropriately in as much of a stress-free manner as possible to those who want to get the tickets, because it's a shambles still at the minute. And sticking another 15,000 seats available every match day is not really going to make much of a difference if your systems that allocate those tickets are shite. And so that all needs, it's all part of a conundrum, but there's lots of time to work on it, because we ain't going to see a new ground in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And as for what it looks like, I really don't care, because God, when you look at the renders of some of the grounds for, say, Qatar, one of them looked like a fanny, for God's sakes, from certain angles. And so when we start to get renders and things put out, and project ideas and official things, everybody still needs to keep their bloody powder dry until the thing's actually built. Because what it looks like on the skyline when it's actually built versus what it looks like from AI renders from different angles, it'll be totally bloody different again. And so we can all speculate on things like that till we're blue in the face. until it's announced proper, it still remains speculation. And I just wish you get on with it now.
George?
Yeah, me too. I wish it was happening, but the biggie is, Neil's hit on it, is getting all the ducks in a row with all the people that's involved, all those that have a say, the council, university, Leazes Park people. When we tried to do this in way back for the World Cup, and we got into an argument and we lost it all, it was because those people had more power, as much power, more power than the club. Well, at the moment, all those people are hard up. They've got no bloody power at all. But as Neil says, we need to have local politicians that are away from the geopolitical politics rubbish that some of them try to get involved in, and just get on with the job. And let Newcastle United get on with the job. Amleth Steve, 80,000, I think is a good number, and the club needs to be can help themselves being a bit penny wise and pound poor. If we've got 80,000 and a match turning up, it looks like it's going to be not sold out. What's the harm in inviting a couple of schools in, and getting football back to the very young ones? Because we used to be the hotbed of soccer. My school, for example, when I played, had 4 teams. Some of the schools in North Tyneside don't have any team. And you're talking about the teams that produced Steve Watson, the Carrick brothers, the Seeleys. Some of those schools don't even have a team now. And what better way to get kids interested in actually get them to come and see a game? So I would be, 80,000. And if it looks like we're going to be a bit shy on the day, then get round to schools and get them involved and get them in. The other thing I'd say about the stadium is that for a long time, it's disappointed me when people have built stadiums, including when they redeveloped St James's Park. When you come out of St James's and you walk through those cavernous voids underneath the stand, which they do nothing. They don't even store things in them. They're just big holes. Well, why not make squash courts and things like that inside with a little bit more sense, so we could the stadiums used 24/7, 7 days a week, and things like that. So I'm hoping that they use that. And I think it goes without saying they're going to plan all sorts of events for the new stadium. I think that's a given almost, and so on. Where it is, it intrigues me because I think you all know on here, I love the cathedral on the hill that we've got now. I'd be disappointed if we lost that, but if we got something that was better, then yeah, let's go for it. But it needs to be thought out very carefully, and the whole thing is going to have such a mark on the entire Newcastle community, the business community, the local community, and those wider that come into Newcastle to go to the match. So it's a big decision for everybody. It'd be nice to see that all the players got together, and when I say players, I mean the council, the club, and the university and others got together and got the thing started. That would be fantastic. But it's I can't wait. It just is can't come soon enough for me. But I'm glad that they're thinking about it anyway, and it looks like, from what I've seen, those things that were released, it's going in the right direction for me. But think a bit more carefully about what else it can do, though. I mean, I smile when we're talking about the Bernabeu. I'm trying to think, Neil, how old were you when I first took you to the Bernabeu? Were you 13, 14?
About that, aye.
And we couldn't believe what we were seeing. Now, that's 40 years ago. I mean, the fact that the peanut man and the ice cream man could walk along in front of us selling their ice cream and peanuts, even then, that's all those years ago. Well, we're still, nowhere near that even now. Yeah, let's catch up, please.
You mentioned the Italian grounds, Mitch, and I think one of the intrinsic problems that the Italian clubs always had was that their grounds were municipality grounds. They were built by the local authority. So you had the Stadio delle Alpi that was stuck right up in a location where games were constantly off for fog and stuff like that. There was a running track around it, which they didn't like. The fans didn't like it. The atmosphere was poor. We all love the view at AC Milan and Inter Milan. We think the ground looks fantastic. But the San Siro was built for 1990 World Cup, and neither club had any say, I don't think, in what the ground looked like or anything. They were just told you're going to be playing there, and I think that's now they're in the stage where they're wanting to go their separate ways or whatever. But that's always been a problem. I think what we've got with Newcastle that we should always hang on to is the fact that it's one of the few city centre grounds in the country. That's
absolutely.
what makes Newcastle United unique. And that's why if you're going to redevelop, it's got to be that there's only one location for it, and that's in the park. If you're not going to be redeveloping the existing ground, and I think we've all already sussed out that redeveloping St James's Park has so many issues around it, just in terms of where we would play while it was happening. We are so isolated here in the northeast. You know, there was an article last week talking about should we go to Murrayfield. You know, should we play up there for a couple of years? Can you imagine that? The government, this is the same bunch of people who would recommend it, who don't want to extend the A1 and make it dualed all the way up so we can get there. You know, we'll take country roads all the way there and back, that type of thing. A railway line that will never get with there and back on time. You know, this is, you know, for some reason Sunderland came out and said, no, you're not going to play at the Stadium Light. We didn't ask for that, man. What are you on about? You know, when
we did ask you to do something, you come running for the money quick enough when we wanted to use your bar.
That's right. But I mean, what else? The other option is
the championship at all.
Put a prefab ground up at Gateshead, you know, for God knows how many years until St James's Park redeveloped. I think we're all realised that, yes, we know you could redevelop St James's Park, but where are you going to play? And I think the answer is there's nowhere you can play.
When you think back to when we first started talking about grounds, when I had John Henry, the architect, do those renders for me on the back of a genuine conversation in Goodfellas with a beer mat and a pen. That was always the one question, and the one thing he couldn't answer was, could the majority of this be done in a closed season? Especially if we then went to the Premier League and said, look, can we play the last month of the season all away from home and the first month of the next season all away from home to give with 2 extra months either side? And he genuinely didn't know. And that's always been the number one question, is what the hell do we do in the meantime?
Yeah.
Are we able to stag on with a reduced capacity? But that's then going to cause even more problem within the fan base with regard to ticketing than we've got now. That's a genuinely serious question about redevelopment that nobody seems to be able to answer at all.
Okay, interesting stuff. We'll move on because Mark Byers is getting bored with ground talk. It is halfway through the show. Time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email them at beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. You can find them at their website, media-arts.co.uk. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and your other podcast providers. If you want to help support the channel, hit the thumb up, which is the like button. Click share to share to your other social medias. Click join to join the channel. And click the subscribe button. We've also got links in our description for buy us a coffee and to be a Patreon member. Some events coming up. An afternoon with Sir Les Ferdinand, 6th of April, 12 till 4. Tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. No Covers takes place at the Clooney, Lilac Lane, Ryder and the Chris Norris Band. Tickets from theclooney.com or by telephone in 0191 230 4474. An evening with Steve Howie and Steve Watson, hosted by Joe Allen, takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 27th of June. Tickets for that are from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on the 23rd of January 2026. Box office 0844 246 1000 or website tynetheatreandoperahouse.tv. An evening with Bad Manners takes place on Friday the 30th of January 2026 and tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainers 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, available from newcastlelegends.com.
Okay, welcome back to the Three Amigos. We are finishing at 6 o'clock, so if you've been caught out by the earlier time, you'll have to go back and watch it when we finish. But as always, still got time to squeeze in a few of these. And if you're easily offended, it's probably time to go and put the kettle on. Here is a doctor's waiting room sign. If you die whilst waiting to see the doctor, please cancel your appointment. That is definitely the way that Great Britain is going now. That's for certain. Fun fact here, humans are destomes. This means that when they develop in the womb, the anus forms before any other opening, which basically means at one point you were nothing but an asshole. Some people never develop beyond this stage. Thank you for that. I didn't know that. It's an interesting fact. We do get sent a lot of these. This one as well, with all my aches and pains, I'm afraid I have that Chinese disease. Young no more.
Oh,
very good. Yeah, we can all relate to that, can't we? Ian Hull, thank you for this. 9 out of 10 zoo dentists refuse to work on grizzly unless it has been given a strong anaesthetic. There's safety in numbers.
Oh.
Sent that in for Mitch, didn't he? And I seriously doubt, lads, that that a horse drew this carriage. You've heard of the bang bus, Mitch. Now get ready for... Unfortunate name sign. And by the time I realised it was a shopping bag, I'd already missed the bus, says this guy. David, thanks for this one. He says, possible for the Amigos, but how do you talk without a brain? I'm a Mackham, says the Scarecrow.
Well done, David.
Excellent, very good. And this one's been sent in particularly for me, I think. People with beards are just people without beards with beards.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Very comment.
Here's the question for the three of us tomorrow. Now, this was sent by Stephen Kennedy. You've been kidnapped. You can call on the characters from one television show to make a rescue attempt. Which show do you pick? So, Steve, which TV show would you select?
Oh, dear me. I think I'd probably go for Charlie's Angels. Have the three girls come chase and find us.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to go for, the A-Team, because they would turn up somewhere. There'd be a stick on the ground and a loose bolt, and they'd manage to construct some army vehicle or boat to get off the island. So I'd use the A-Team. What about you, Mitch?
I was going to say the A-Team as well. It seems to be only one choice for me.
George?
Oh, any half a dozen lads off the Meadowell would do me.
Good stuff. Jimmy loved this one. He says, I yelled cow at a woman on a bike and she gave me the finger. Then she ploughed her bike straight into the cow. Well, I did try. Thanks for that, Jimmy. And morgue worker stole human testicles from corpses to help her win homemade spaghetti sauce contest. Another one from Jimmy. That I'm not quite sure it's accurate, Jimmy. This is that new Mike Tyson tortellini I was telling you about, lads.
Oh, very
Oh,
clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the Titanic cuisine, my heartburn will go on. Someone posted underneath that. We regret to advise you that due to an increase in lighting and CCTV, this little area is no longer safe for drug dealing, fly tipping, and nookie.
Yeah.
And this sign was in a toilet. Stop jacking off in our bedroom. There is absolutely no masturbation while on company time. All employees must clock out and masturbate in their own time. Yes, some of
Yeah.
these signs that get put up in these workplaces. Me, universe, please give me a sign. The sign that he got pain. You deserve it.
Oh,
And this is a strange bottle. Next to the Durex in the chemists. Is this real, lads? I've never seen this before. I would presume not when you see the title of the person who's made it. But thank you for sending that in. I'm not going to read this out. I'll let you read it yourself. Stomach cramps with an S. Do you feel like you've been slapped in the gut? H. Heavy feeling in your pants. Does it feel like you've got shepherd's pie in your knickers? A. Roma. Can you smell? And R. Running sensation. Can you feel the fart run down the back of your knee? T. Toilet. Run for God's sake from the knee down. Don't trust a fart. It could be a short. NHS. That's excellent, that, by the way. Excellent. Thank you for sending that in. Jimmy Moore, again, he's on form, Jimmy, this week. It belonged to your mother, says Obi-Wan Kenobi. I will leave that to your imagination. Soda Pop Kid says, Freddie, after entering my dreams and seeing stuff he wasn't mentally equipped to deal with. Very good. And a very rare photo of Keith Richards with Adam and Eve. Sir, please understand, to buy an antidepressant pill, you need a proper prescription. Simply show your marriage certificate and wife's picture is not enough. Thanks to Craig for this one. The fourth little pig's house was made of wolf skulls. They aren't very sturdy. They send a message. And another one from Craig. Listen, I'm not going to keep letting you out in and out all day, says Dracula. Jimmy again with this one. Pretty sure there's a coyote under the bench. With that rock lying in the middle of the bench. And coming down to the last few. No toilet paper. Build a backyard B-day, lads. It's a great idea. That looks like Mark Byers' place.
Yeah.
And only after I got home, I realised why they were so cheap. Following on from the feet, the little toe designed specifically to geolocate furniture in low light conditions.
True.
We've all been there and stubbed our toes. Just got accepted in a porn movie role. I'm the husband going to work. And another one of those toys sent in this week by Rob. It's the Tesla Cybertruck playset. I don't know where you get these from, but that is funny. The winner this week, Jimmy, you sent so many. I'm going to give you the winning medal this week. Sometimes the memes just make themselves, he says. If you've got a tweet of the week, then please contact us on our email. There you go. nufcmatters1892@gmail.com is where to send them, or at Steve Wraith on X, or send them to Steve, Mitch, or George, and we will feature them on the show next week. Okay, last question before we head into looking ahead to Fulham. Where do we go? Let's talk Miggy. We haven't had a chance to say, what your thoughts are on Miggy leaving. It does tie in, I guess, a little bit with transfers. Gary says, from listening to Craig Hope and watching the press conference, it sounds like we needed an outgoing to comply with PSR, and Miggy's filled that. What do you make of that, guys? James again about transfers. Evening, guys. How do the panel feel about the prospect of zero major incomings in this window and the fact we now only have one right winger at the club? Does it change any opinions for the top 4 or 5? Dave says, how do all, got to say, slightly worrying me that we're going to go into the window without backing Eddie. FNPS. Porty Street Henderson, I will answer this as well. The loser of the Carabao Cup final they have to finish higher in the league, mate. You don't get a place for losing the Carabao Cup, only for winning it. So you need to finish as high up in your league. That's where you are. Or win the FA Cup, of course. That's the answer to your question. So yeah, Steve, first of all, Miggy's gone. Thoughts on that? And yeah, I mean, you know, one out, you would hope very much for one in, but all the feelings at the moment are that there won't be. What's your feelings on Miggy going, and do you think we'll get anybody in?
Well, I think we've said for weeks, certainly I have, that one out will not mean one in. Expected Miggy to move on. I do think it's a PSR drawback for I don't think he'll be replaced. I said weeks ago on this show that I expected at the end of the transfer window for that to have been outgoings but no incomings. And I think with 3 days to go, it's looking very much like that. In terms of Miggy, he came as a left winger. He's only got 1 foot. He's only got the one leg to kick a ball with, which is his left. And for the last season and a half, at least, he's played on the right, because Howe likes the inverted winger style of play. Interesting. I watched a little montage by the Atlanta fans, and the Atlanta fans were obviously singing his praises at the airport when he came back, and they were all cheering, and they put a little montage up of what he was like when he was there previously. I think I pointed out to you guys that virtually every goal that you saw him score, he was coming in from the left, or he was going wide down the left.
Yeah.
Very rarely did you see him on the right-hand side. All of the goals were scored either as free kicks, which he never took for Newcastle, or from the left-hand side. And he never played like that for the last 18 months, 2 years for Newcastle United. He had that lovely little spell where he scored, 12, 13 goals, where he just couldn't stop scoring. But I think other than the goal that we had against PSG, I don't think he scored a league goal, a Premier League goal for us since I think December 2023. You know, I know he hasn't played every single game, but he's been on the bench and he's come on in majority of games that he's been on the bench. Having said that, when he came, he was a breath of fresh air. He was a player that we desperately needed because he was someone that ran at defences. He pushed the opposition back, created space for others. He was exciting when he was on the ball, but the longer it went on, I think the less opportunities came for him. And I think at 30-year-old to get what have we got then? Have we got 8 million? Have we got 9 million? Have we got 10 million? Or have we got 12 million? Because all 4 of those figures have been mentioned by various people in the press. And they're obviously people in the press who are not being briefed by whoever it is at Newcastle United, because if they kind of get the price right. So, but I wish them all the best. I'm sure the family will settle very, very quickly back in their old board in America. The only other place I remember, I had a conversation, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago, with Ben Jacobs, who told us that's where he was heading. I had mentioned that I'd heard a whisper that he might have ended up somewhere like Leicester City if he was going to stay in the Premier League. But to be perfectly honest, I think a move to America is absolutely perfect for him, because I think he can certainly the level that he's going to be playing at, he will be back in as the star man at Atlanta. I wish him well.
Mitch, Miggy's gone. It seemed to take a while to get him out. We don't do business quickly in or out, but he's gone, and great to see him get a wonderful reception as he arrived there. It was a welcome home that only he would have got, I think, because of the standing that he's got at Atlanta. But yeah, he's gone. Any more feelings about maybe he's a player coming in or anything like that as well? But your thoughts on Miggy going?
First of all, it goes with grace and thanks. You know, if anybody epitomised a team that tried, there's their epitome of it, and I don't understand some of the negativity towards him of late. It's quite clear he wasn't getting a regular game, and you're not getting a regular game for a reason. It's because the manager deems, for all you're professional and all you're doing the right things behind the scenes, you're not good enough. and we're moving on from that. And I think for all Eddie would say he didn't want to lose him, Eddie wasn't using him. And so the lad deserves to get first team football where at his stage of the career where he's loved and he's liked, and he will be a different player. If you look at the any of the sort of highlight reels of him playing at Atlanta in the past, he looks a different player to the one that we had in a very different role. So, you know, for him, great move. Business with MLS clubs always takes time because of the way that the league's structured and that the league has an input into any transfers with allocated players and registered players and all sorts of things like that. So it's never quick. Is it good money for him? Yeah, I think it is. If it's something that we needed to do for PSR, I suspect we're being accounting very, very carefully. I've seen somebody having a discussion about this with regards to Brighton's figures recently, and that they calculate for 12th. That's the highest they calculate for, and anything they see past that is extras. And so if we're doing something similar, to very deliberately not have the same situation that we had on June, July last year, then so be it. The timing's crap. If we can't bring somebody in to give another option particularly on the right wing right now, it just doesn't feel right that we can't at least look to give Eddie a little bit of help in this window, and I'd be disappointed if we don't. But it seems to be that is the way. That my assumption that would be opportunistic buyers. It was maybe even over optimistic. It sounds like we've not really been interested in buying at all. But yeah, the counter to that is we also know that certain things may have happened that hadn't. And so it just, again, what you find out sort of behind the scenes and under the radar a little bit is totally contrary to what they're saying publicly. So I just don't know exactly what kind of position we're in. But I'm right now not expecting any surprises as the window gently closes. I don't think you can say this transfer window is slamming shut, can you? It's more sort of like being gently put together so not to disturb the neighbours. Going back to Miggy, you know, so many things you could be grateful for. First goal against PSG, you know, that's a night that'll long live. And so he goes with thanks to somebody who, the one thing you cannot say is he did not do anything other than give 100% all the time. And that's all you can ask of any player. And so if there's any example to be taken from that, that's what it is.
George, your views on Miggy and whether you expect anybody to come in?
Miggy first. Every dressing room should have a Miggy. Look how long Rafa waited to bring him. I think it was nearly a year that Rafa waited to sign him and kept badgering Ashley for the money to get him. And he came as a number 10. And when you watch him when he's playing for his country, that's where he plays. And he's a different player. And Steve's right. All his left-footed goals are scored when he's coming in from the left or going down the left channel. And it makes quite a difference. But hardly ever seen him without a smile on his face. Win, lose, or draw, that smile goes round the pitch with the players when he's going off. And he must be an absolute dream for the manager in the dressing room, being able to pick other people up with that happy-go-lucky attitude of his. And I think, as I say, every team needs a Miggy now and again to go in the dressing room. The only time that I've seen him without a real smile was that dreadful day at Brentford earlier this season. Remember, I told you I watched them come off the bus before they went into the dressing room, and then not one of them had a smile, including Miggy, and that worried me. And I was right to be worried because it was bloody awful. So whatever happened on the bus, I don't know. But for Miggy, goes with love and best wishes for the rest of his career, and obviously going where he's well loved. I suspect his family aren't unhappy about going back there either. You know, they'll feel well loved too. So good luck to him. And having played for a team where, you know, the banners around the stadium where we don't play for a team that expect to win, just the one that you expect to try. Well, Miggy's your tryer. Come rain, come shine. Yes, occasionally people criticise him because you weren't sure where he was running. Now those like Malcolm MacDonald would say if they opened the Gallagher corner doors, he would keep running down Northumberland Street. Well, yeah, that all in the cause of Newcastle United. As long as it was for black and white, Miggy would run. So I feel the privilege to have seen him play because he did do some good things for us. But his energy and his attitude must have rubbed off on other people, and good for younger players to see as well that a seasoned professional can be like that. And don't forget the last 18 months, I think it's the last 4 or 5 winters, he's had to spend his days training, get ready for games he's not going to play in, and listen to all the press saying he's going here, he's going there, we want rid of him, they want this, and he's played through all of that without a tweet, without a Twitter, saying, being upset about it. In fact, I think the funniest story I heard was when he was in the RVI for something, and he went in to see 1 or 2 patients, and a couple of the patients were asking him where he was going, and it was news to him. So, he's had to put up with all of that and still have a smile on his face. As to the regards coming in, well, it doesn't surprise me. I think everybody from the hierarchy, from Eddie down over and up over, who's talked about transfers, has played it straight back, played it absolutely flat. And I've not been expecting anything to come in. So if anybody comes in, it will be a big surprise. The method in the madness, well, maybe they've all been saved up for a big splurge in the summer. I don't know. But the quicker they'll get rid of this PSR tripe and VAR tripe, we'll get back to playing football. It would be great. That would be the best thing that could happen. But I can't see anybody coming in, to be honest. It would be a nice surprise if they did. Meanwhile, the right winger that keeps getting slated, Jacob Murphy, it keeps popping his head up at the top of the assist list in the Premiership now, and that can't be bad. So Eddie and the guys seem to be able to handle it. So get on with it, lads. Go for it. That's all I'd say.
Okay, we have about 20 minutes left of the show. We can still cram in one of these. The day I met, where we asked you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle, past or present. This was sent to us a while ago. Spenny with Ryan Taylor. Thank you for that, Spenny. Good one. And I've got one today from Beverly, who is the sponsor of our fanzine. You will remember she's also sponsored the show from United Group Travel. She's been on the dark side. Look at who she's met, lads.
Wow.
Darth Vader, some stormtroopers outside the main spaceship. This is amazing, Beverly. You've blown my mind with that. You really have. It's out of this world, that photo. So thank you for sending us it. If you've got one, nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com. Send it in. If you want to send us a little bit of info as to when you met the person, what they were like, you could do that as well. And it just gives us an opportunity to play that wonderful music. Okay, time to look ahead.
The music always had one fan, Steve.
It did, yes, it did. Time to look ahead now to the match at the weekend. There'll be no tune tips of the day. The show is a bit too early for them when we do these ones, having to get on a little bit early. But Newcastle do take on Fulham tomorrow. It is a 3:00 kickoff, non-televised, of course. Early team news: well, Harvey Barnes and Jamal Lascelles remain out. Callum Wilson's return isn't as imminent as we first thought, and Joel Linton remains 2 bookings off a 2-match ban now, heading towards that magic figure of 10, which doesn't surprise you with Joe Linton. Let's face it. As for Fulham, Harry Wilson, Reece Nelson, and Kenny Tate are all unavailable due to various ailments. Ahead of their visit to Newcastle, the Cottagers have lost 1-0 at home to Manchester United on Sunday evening. Their form on the road hasn't been that bad, though. They've won 4, Forest, Palace, Chelsea and Leicester, and drawn 4, Ipswich, Everton, Spurs and Liverpool. They've lost 3, Manchester United, Manchester City and West Ham. And Fulham have scored twice in each of their last 4 Premier League away games, with 7 of the 8 goals coming in the second half of games. Referee tomorrow is Chris Kavanagh, fresh from his VAR duty at Southampton game on Saturday. The Lancashire official takes charge of his 3rd Newcastle game this season. He was involved in the 2-1 Premier League win at Wolves, the 2-0 Carabao Cup victory against Chelsea at St James's Park. And a new name on the VAR, it's Alex Chilowich. I've got to be honest, that's a new name full stop. Never heard of him, so he is involved tomorrow. Don't forget the food bank. The usual stall and bucket shakers will be in and around Strawberry Place with NUFC director Jamie Rubin again matching all match day donations. So we do have a little update now from Toon Stato.
Hello there with a couple of stats before the home game against Fulham tomorrow at St James's Park. Newcastle is unbeaten against Fulham at home in the Premier League since that fateful game in 2009 when we lost and eventually we got relegated in the last game of the season against Aston Villa. Since then, actually Newcastle has won 5 and drawn 3 against Fulham at home, although they won at St James's Park back in the Championship in 2016-2017 season. When it comes to players, Alexander Isak has scored the most goals in the Premier League since the start of December, 13 goals. He has outscored also 6 teams in the Premier League. Actually, he currently sits second in Newcastle's all-time goal scorer list in the Premier League, and he's on a level with Freddie Ljungberg as the highest scoring Swedish footballer with 48. He needs one to surpass him. Jacob Murphy has assisted 6 of Isak goals in the Premier League, which is the highest number of assists for any player to another in the Premier League this season, and it equals Newcastle Premier League record, which is 6 assists for Nobby Solano to Alan Shearer in the 99-2000 season, 6 for Laurent Robert to Alan Shearer in the 2001-2002 season, and also 6 for Solomon Rondon to Jose Perez more recently in 2018-2019. Fulham, on the other hand, have a great season away from home. They have won 16 points out of 11 games versus 18 points won total away from home last season, which on a points per game basis is their best season ever in the Premier League as an away team. Newcastle, on the other hand, has 7 wins in 8 games in the Premier League and has the most points in that period among all clubs, with only Liverpool scoring more goals. However, let's see what happens tomorrow.
Cheers, Andre. Hope you and the family are well. Okay, Steve. I've gone for a draw tomorrow. I genuinely think this is a potential banana skin, and Gibbo was having a pop at us yesterday about it. But I genuinely think this is a really difficult game. I think it's as difficult in every way, shape, or form as Bournemouth was. And I've got to be perfectly honest as well. I don't think we played particularly well at Southampton, despite winning. So I am very nervous about this game tomorrow. I'm more nervous about this than I am than I am about the Arsenal game. And yeah, we'll have the full squad. We've had another week. We've had another week to prepare. But listening to Fulham's away record, it's a dangerous record. You know, I know Newcastle will always score goals, but I just have a feeling at the moment we've got a tendency to concede and at times. And it sounds stupid. Gibbo was saying we've won 10 out of 11, man. What on earth are you going on about? But at the end of the day, it's my opinion, and I just think sometimes these are like potential banana skins. You know, there was people giving 3-0s and 4-0s going into the Bournemouth game, not showing any respect for Bournemouth, and we lost 4-1. It can happen, and if you don't turn up and you don't play to your standards, and Fulham come with a game plan like Bournemouth did, it could be a difficult game. So I'm not changing my stance. You know, sometimes I've changed my stance after a Thursday night, but I still think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think it'll be a 2-2 draw. And I think, you know, we'll go into the Arsenal game, still on a decent little run. So that's where I'm feeling. What about you, Steve? What do you feel about this?
That's interesting what you say, Steve, because I was listening to Talk Sport earlier this afternoon, and they have a little supporters roundup. You know, they have various guests on who give their opinion on how so many games are going to go. And to a man, they all went for 3-1, 4-1 win to Newcastle, right across the board, completely disregarded Fulham. And I was listening to it, and I was a bit like you. I was thinking to myself, you know what? This Fulham they have a really good record away from home. They're a lot tighter. They're a lot more organised than I've seen Fulham in the past. I think that the manager's really got them playing to a system. I think they're difficult to break down. We saw them against Manchester United last week, where Man United eventually managed to grab a goal. But I mean, they had Man United, other than not being able to score, they had them to the sword at times. I think if there is an Achilles heel for them, it is the lack of goals, and I think that's the only saving grace that I could sort of or flag I could wave in your face regarding that. They don't score that many goals in comparison to the amount of possession that they tend to have. Having said that, I still think that Newcastle United will be stronger for them. I think that I think the players were embarrassed by their performance against Bournemouth, and yes, at times we didn't play that well last weekend, but we still came away with the result. I think I think that allowed them to shake some of those cobwebs off, and I think that the confidence should be regained. But it's interesting what you say about conceding goals, Steve, because this is the conundrum that Eddie's going to have now. Who does he play as his centre back pairing? Does he bring Botman back in, or does he stick with Cher and Byrne? Because the partnership of Botman and Byrne looked good when it was on, when they were together. And it looked tighter because the fullbacks looked better as well. And when he was swapping and changing, say, bringing Trippier in for Livramento during part games and this type of thing, it didn't seem to affect the back four. But when Shaw's there, sometimes it tends to. And Shaw is one of those players that seems to, like, how do I say it? If he's not up for the game, he seems to be lackadaisical at times. He wants to play that long sort of quarterback style pass, dropping deep and then firing them forward. Looks great when it works, but so many times when it doesn't, and a lot of it is Shaw up for the game. Sometimes I think one of the problems with Shaw is that he sometimes has nobody to mark. He's better in a battle than he is when he's just stepping back, and it's Byrne who's doing all the battling with one centre forward up front and somebody else. I don't think he particularly likes people running at him, but I think it's going to be interesting. There's something happening tomorrow, Steve. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, as I said. But you mentioned the food bank. There's Dan the barman from Wales is coming to the food bank stall tomorrow, and Dan claims, and you find this, I'm fascinated by this. He claims that he can remember every Newcastle United score since we joined the Premier League in 1993. And he's asking people to come along and challenge him, give him a game. You provide the fixture, and he'll tell you what the score was. And he claims he will always be right. If you ask him a question and he gets it right, you can donate a £5 to the food bank. If you beat him and he gets it wrong, he's going to donate £100. So that's a little bit of a challenge that he's put forward. He's very confident. So if you're around on Strawberry Place, next to the Strawberry we are now, on the corner at the moment, while there's redevelopment work going on behind the stack, drainage work, I think. Get yourself along and challenge Dan the Barman. So Dan the Barman from Wales.
Very good. Okay, Mitch, over to you, mate. What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
It comes back to what I said earlier in the show. Respect everybody and fear no one. And that's exactly what we've got to do tomorrow. They're an annoying team to work out what they're going to do. Their home form and their away form is almost identical. And so it means on the day, they're one of these teams that can be shite or sugar.
Yeah.
And who's going to turn up? Which one of them's going to turn up? And it's up to us to make sure that no matter which one turns up, we're better than that. There's absolutely no reason why our starting 11 should fear anybody coming to St James's Park at all.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge is remaining mentally up for it and not allowing somebody to take the game to where the way Bournemouth did. Not allowing it to get, out fought and out thought. So for me, it should be a straightforward home win, but it never is it? This is the way it works. It never is quite that. But we've got a hell of a lot more to hurt them with than they have for us.
Yeah, I put it down to Stockholm syndrome. Maybe I'm suffering a little bit this
No,
week.
look, it's understandable. They are a very weird team. Stato. Just Andrea's legs not fall asleep while he's recording these things on the bog, by the way. But anyway, as he rightly points out, away from home, that form's not bad. But some teams prefer to play away from home. Their style suits that.
Yeah.
And so we have to be wary of that. They're obviously a counter-attacking team. They obviously like to play on the break.
Yep.
And so we have to be prepared for all of that and more. And if we are, we should take 3 points. There's no argument on that.
Okay, then what's the dice say? Says Tom.
The dice says 2-1.
2-1 to Newcastle. What do you say, Mitch?
I say 2-0.
2-0. 2 positive predictions from Steve and from Mitch. Rather negative one from me, I guess. 2-2. George, what about you?
I think you're right to caution people, Steve, because they are a difficult team to play away from home. They seem to be set up for the away games in quite a way. The other thing I noticed, somebody in the chat said about the referee being on his game. He's absolutely right. I've watched a couple of Fulham games. They've got 2 or 3 people who love sticking the boot in a peculiar, leaving their foot in a hard place, and that needs to be watched. In fact, that could be the means of Joe Linton getting another booting, because he'll react, like he does. But I think you're right to be cautious about Fulham. But as Mr. Optimistic, I still feel that it's a Newcastle win. I think it'll be an entertaining game. But like that was just been on the chat, I'll go for a penman. I think it'll be 3-1. But we won't get away with it easy. We're going to have to be on our mettle to get to do that.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Sorry, it's a slightly shorter show, but a great show and a great week to boot. We will be back with the professionals 5 o'clock on Sunday. Myself, Mitch, and Stu. Looking forward to seeing everybody then. In the morning, I will be back 9:30 to do a quick threes a crowd with Rye and with Ted. It's always good to see them lads and do a Northeast football podcast. But have a good night, whatever you're doing. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, George. Thanks, Mitch. Take care. Bye-bye.
Night,
Cheers,
everybody.
everyone.
Thanks for watching.